After the difficult divorce, the single dad named Amir found himself standing on a stretch of desert land that he bought for only $20, and even though the price was low, the place felt empty and forgotten, and the silence around him pressed on his chest like a quiet weight as he looked across the dry earth and the broken fence that stood like tired bones in the sand, and he wondered how he would turn this lonely place into a home for himself and his young son, Adam, who trusted him with innocent hope that always pushed him forward when life felt heavy and uncertain, and Amir kept telling himself that this land might give them a fresh start even if it looked rough and lifeless from every direction. The small wooden cabin on the property leaned to one side, and the roof carried patches where the sun had burned the wood so badly that it looked like it might crumble at any moment, and Amir knew he had a long road ahead, but he also felt something inside him that whispered that a new life often starts in quiet places where no one else wants to live, and he stepped inside the cabin and looked at the worn floor and the single chair left behind by whoever lived here before, and he imagined how he would fix the door for Adam, paint the walls, and maybe plant a few trees to bring a little green into the desert. On the first evening, Amir walked outside and watched the sky shift into shades of gold and red as the sun lowered itself behind the far hills, and for a moment he felt calm as if the land was offering him a fragile welcome, and he breathed in the dry warm air, letting the memories of his old life drift away because he no longer wanted to carry the weight of past mistakes or painful moments, and he wanted to focus on Adam, who needed him now more than ever, and he promised himself he would make this place safe and peaceful even if it took time. That night Amir sat beside a small fire he made from old wood he gathered behind the cabin, and he listened to the crackling sound while Adam slept inside, and the world around him felt too large and too quiet, yet something about the desert held a strange comfort, like a wide open space where a person could build a new dream from nothing, and Amir closed his eyes and imagined what this property could become if he worked hard each day and never gave up. The next morning Amir woke early and walked around the land again, wanting to understand every corner of the place, since he planned to fix the fence, clear the ground, and maybe build a small shed in the back, and as he walked he noticed something unusual near the far side of the land, something that looked like tracks pressed into the sand, and the shape made him pause because he could not tell if they belonged to a large animal or if they were simply marks from an old wooden cart left long ago, but they looked fresh and deep, and that confused him since he had not seen anything wandering around the property. He followed the tracks slowly, and the rising sun warmed his back while the wind moved gently across the ground and carried a sound he could not clearly identify, and he kept walking until he reached the edge of the fence where the land dropped slightly into a shallow dip, and that was when he saw movement far ahead, something tall, graceful, and silent, and his breath caught as the figure stepped out from behind a cluster of dry bushes. A horse stood there, unlike any horse he had ever seen before, with a coat that looked almost silver when the light touched it, and a mane that swayed like soft ribbons in the wind, and for a moment Amir felt unable to move, because the animal looked both wild and calm at the same time, as if it belonged to the desert itself, and the sight of it filled him with a strange mix of awe and disbelief. The horse did not run. Instead, it lifted its head and looked straight at him with dark, clear eyes that seemed to hold a knowing expression, and Amir felt something stir inside him, a feeling that the appearance of this animal was not random, and that somehow the desert was showing him something he needed to see, and he took one slow step forward, keeping his hands low and open because he did not want to frighten the creature, even though he doubted he could get very close. As he stood there, the wind grew softer, and the world around him fell into a quiet stillness that felt almost unreal, and Amir wondered if the horse belonged to someone nearby, or if it had been living wild in the open land for years, and he looked around hoping to see a rider, or a mark, or anything that could explain how such a beautiful creature ended up here, but there was nothing, only the horse standing alone as if waiting for him. The animal gave a gentle snort and tilted its head, and Amir felt a sudden wave of calm wash over him, like the desert had paused for this moment alone, and he could not understand why, but he felt that this horse carried some silent story that touched the edge of his new life, and he sensed that its arrival would change something for him, and Adam maybe something neither of them could see yet. Finally the horse stepped closer just a little, and Amir felt his heart beat faster with surprise because he never expected a wild horse to come near him, and he stayed frozen where he stood, not wanting to break the fragile trust happening between them, and the horse lowered its head as if acknowledging him, and then turned its body, slowly walking across the sand with steady steps, leaving him standing there speechless and full of questions. When he returned to the cabin, Adam ran to him with a smile and asked what he had seen, and Amir looked toward the horizon where the silver shape had disappeared and wondered how he would explain it in simple words, because even he could barely believe what he had witnessed, and he realized that the desert might not be as empty as it first seemed, and that their new life on this land might hold secrets and surprises that he never expected. As the day moved forward, Amir kept thinking about the horse and the peaceful yet powerful presence it carried, and he felt a strange hope that maybe the desert was not a place of loss but a place where new journeys begin, and he decided he would keep his eyes open each morning and evening in case the horse returned, because something inside him whispered that this was only the beginning of a story he was meant to live, and that the wild desert was about to show him much more than silent land and dry wind. The next morning arrived with a soft glow over the desert land, and Amir stepped outside with a cup of warm tea in his hand, feeling the cool air brush against his face as the sky slowly shifted from dark blue to pale gold, and he looked across the open space hoping to see the wild horse again, but the land seemed quiet and still, and only the wind moved through the dry grass as if carrying old secrets that no one had heard in years, and Amir wondered if the horse had been a dream brought by loneliness and long days of struggle. But something inside him kept reminding him that the animal had been real, and that its presence had touched him in a way he could not explain. Adam came running out of the cabin with a bright smile, and he asked if they would continue fixing the fence, and Amir nodded, knowing that every small improvement they made would bring them closer to building a life that felt steady and safe after all the hardship they had faced during the divorce and the long confusing months after it, and Amir wanted his son to believe that nothing was truly lost as long as they kept moving forward with patience and hope. Together they carried wooden planks across the sand and hammered them into place, and while they worked, Adam kept asking questions about the horse and whether it might return, and whether they could keep it if it ever came close again, and Amir tried to answer gently, knowing that wild animals followed their own path and could not be owned or controlled, but he also told Adam that sometimes the desert brought unexpected friends to people who respected the land and treated it with kindness. As the sun climbed higher, the heat settled over the property, and Amir sent Adam inside for water while he continued to fix the last corner of the fence, and while he worked he felt that same strange stillness from the day before, as if the desert around him paused and listened, and when he lifted his head, he saw movement again, but this time much closer, and the sight made his heart jump because the horse was back standing quietly near the broken mesquite tree at the far edge of the land. The silver coat shimmered in the sunlight, and the horse looked breathtaking against the golden sand, and Amir felt as if he was staring at a creature shaped by the desert wind itself, and he stood still this time, letting the horse decide how close it wanted to come, and slowly the animal walked toward him with steady steps, as if it had already trusted him, even though he had no food or rope or reason to call it near. Adam came out of the cabin and froze when he saw the horse, and his eyes grew wide with amazement, and he whispered to his father asking if it was safe, and Amir nodded, though he himself did not fully understand the connection he felt with the creature, but he sensed no danger, only calm presence and a strange curiosity shining in the horse's eyes. The horse stopped a few steps away, and lowered its head as if greeting him again, and Amir reached out slowly, letting his hand hover near the animal cheek without touching it, because he respected its wild nature, and did not want to break a moment that felt almost sacred, and the horse breathed softly, creating a warm, gentle sound that made Adam step closer with awe written all over his face. Then without warning the horse turned and began to walk along the fence line, stopping at one spot where the wood looked fragile and almost broken, and it tapped the ground with its hoof, as if pointing something out, and Amir frowned, wondering if the animal sensed something he could not see, and he walked to the spot, and pushed the fence lightly, and realized that the support post was loose beneath the sand, and could fall at any moment. He looked back at the horse with surprise, because it almost felt like the creature had guided him there intentionally, and when the horse flicked its tail and looked at him again, he felt a strange certainty that this was no random meeting, and that the desert animal understood more than a simple wild horse usually would, and Amir fixed the post while Adam watched both him and the horse, trying to understand how this silent communication was happening between man and animal. When the post was steady again, the horse slowly walked away, heading toward a rocky rise behind the property, and Amir and Adam followed at a respectful distance, wanting to see where it would go, and the horse climbed the gentle slope with graceful steps, and stopped at the top, looking out toward the far horizon, and Amir realized that from this spot the view stretched farther than any place on their land, and he could see a narrow stream hidden behind a line of rocks, something he had never noticed before. The sight surprised him because water was rare here, and he wondered how he had missed it, and he looked at the horse who stood beside the stream as if showing them a hidden treasure, and Adam ran down the slope, excited to see the small ribbon of water flowing gently, and he looked back at his father with bright eyes, calling out that they could use this water to grow trees, or maybe build a small garden, and Amir felt his heart swell with hope, because suddenly the land did not feel empty anymore. For a while they stayed near the stream, letting the moment sink in, and Amir kept watching the horse, who dipped its head to drink before lifting it again, and looking toward the horizon as if waiting for something or someone, and Amir wondered if the horse lived nearby, or if it wandered the desert looking for people who needed guidance or a sign to keep going, and he felt a strange sense of gratitude toward the animal for revealing something valuable that could change their life on this land. When the sun began to drop, they followed the horse back to the main property where it paused near the cabin, and looked at them one last time before turning and walking away into the wide desert with slow steady steps, and Amir felt a mix of wonder and confusion because the creature behaved almost like a guardian watching over them from a distance, and he could not understand why they had been chosen for such a gift, but he felt thankful all the same. That night Amir and Adam sat outside their cabin eating a simple meal and talking about the stream and the possibilities ahead, and Adam kept saying that the horse would return again because it clearly liked them, and Amir smiled at his son's hopefulness, knowing that children often feel truths that adults overlook, and he looked at the dark horizon wondering where the horse had gone and if it would indeed reappear. As the stars brightened in the sky, Amir felt something he had not felt in a long time, a sense that life was shifting toward something better, and that the desert land he had bought for almost nothing might hold more value than he first realized, not because of money, but because of the hope and mystery it brought with each new day, and he knew that the story of the wild horse was only beginning, and that whatever came next would change both his and Adam's future in ways he could not yet imagine. The next few days passed with steady work on the land, and Amir felt a growing sense of purpose that pushed him to wake early each morning and repair everything he could, while Adam helped with excitement in his eyes because the discovery of the hidden stream had filled him with new energy, and he talked non-stop about the garden they would grow and the trees they could plant, and how the desert might become a home full of life instead of a lonely place left behind by time and hardship. Amir fixed the cabin windows and brushed the sand from the corners while Adam cleared stones from the path leading to the stream, and every evening they sat outside watching the sky turn orange and pink, and both of them waited quietly hoping the wild horse would appear again because the animal had already become part of their days, even though it never stayed long enough for them to understand its reason for coming. On the fourth morning Amir stepped outside and felt a gentle wind moving across the land, carrying a faint sound that made him pause, the soft echo of hooves moving over sand, and he looked toward the far side of the property with growing anticipation, and there it was, the silver-coated horse walking with calm steps as if returning to check on them, and the sight brought a warm sense of comfort to Amir because the presence of the animal made him feel that the desert was no longer empty but alive and watching over them. Adam came out with excitement, lifting his hands as if greeting the horse like a long-lost friend, and the horse stopped a short distance away, lowering its head gently like it understood the boy's joy, and Amir felt a quiet connection forming between his son and the creature, and it surprised him how natural it felt to share the land with this wild animal, even though they knew so little about it. The horse turned and began walking toward the stream, and Amir sensed that it wanted them to follow, so he called Adam, and together they walked behind it as it moved with graceful steps across the warm sand, and when they reached the stream the horse stopped and looked back at Amir with a deep calm expression that felt almost meaningful, and Amir wondered again why this horse kept guiding them to new places on the land. While standing beside the water, Adam noticed something unusual near the undergrowth beside the rocks, a faint glimmer like polished stone, and he pointed it out to Amir, who bent down to brush the sand aside, revealing an old metal ring embedded in the ground, and he pulled at it gently, finding that it was attached to a wooden hatch partly buried beneath the earth and covered by years of dust and sand, and Amir looked at the horse whose eyes seemed fixed on him as if urging him to open it. After clearing more sand, Amir lifted the hatch slowly, and a cool breath of air rose from the dark space beneath it, and inside he saw a small storage area built long ago with wooden walls that were dry but still strong, and he climbed down carefully while Adam waited above, watching with wide, curious eyes, and inside the space Amir found old ranch tools, ropes, a broken saddle, and a few metal containers that looked like they once held water or grain, and even though the items were worn, they told a story of someone who had lived and worked here before him. He found a wooden box in the corner, and when he opened it, he discovered papers wrapped in cloth, old maps, notes, and a small journal that described the land and the animals that passed through it, and one page mentioned a rare desert horse with a coat that shone like silver and eyes that carried deep intelligence, and the writing described it as a guide of the land that appeared to people during times of change, leading them toward places that needed to be found, and the words made Amir freeze because they matched the horse perfectly. When he climbed out of the hidden space, Adam asked what he found, and Amir handed him the journal, telling him that someone long ago had written about a horse just like the one visiting them, and Adam listened with fascination as they read the notes together, learning how the horse would appear to lost travelers or new settlers, showing them water, guiding them to shelter, and helping them understand the land they lived on, and Adam said it felt like the horse was protecting them, and Amir agreed, even though he did not say it out loud. As they walked back to the cabin, the horse followed at a distance, watching them with calm eyes, and Amir felt a quiet strength in the way the animal moved, and he wondered how many people across the years had seen the same creature, and how many lives it had touched without them fully understanding its gift, and he felt thankful that he and Adam were now part of that story, even if they did not know where it would lead. Later that day, a truck drove down the dirt road toward their property, kicking up dust clouds that drifted across the land, and Amir stepped forward with caution, wondering who would come all the way out here, and when the truck stopped, an older man stepped out with weathered skin and steady eyes, and he introduced himself as Mr. Lewis, a neighbor who lived miles away at the edge of the desert, and said he had heard someone bought the abandoned land and wanted to check if they needed help. Amir welcomed him politely, and Mr. Lewis looked around with a thoughtful expression before asking if Amir had seen anything strange lately, any animals that did not belong here, and Amir exchanged a quick glance with Adam before answering, carefully asking why he wanted to know, and Mr. Lewis explained that he had once seen a silver horse on this land many years ago when he was young, and that only a few people ever saw it, and that every person who did had their life changed afterward in ways they could not explain. Hearing this made Amir feel a quiet shiver because it confirmed the importance of the horse, and he asked Mr. Lewis why such a creature existed, and the man said that some stories claimed the horse appeared to people who were starting over or who needed to discover the strength inside themselves, and that the land understood the struggles of those who walked on it and sent the horse to guide them towards something meaningful. After Mr. Lewis left, Amir and Adam stood in silence thinking about everything they had learned, and the horse stood at the far edge of the property looking toward the horizon as if waiting for the next step in their journey, and Amir realized that the animal did not just bring hope or surprise but also responsibility, because whatever it wanted to show them might change their lives even more than they had expected. That evening Amir sat by the cabin fire watching the flickering light reflect off the sand, and he thought about his old life, the pain of the divorce and the loss that once felt too heavy to carry, and he realized that the desert had already begun to heal him in quiet, unexpected ways, and that the horse arrival marked a turning point that he was only beginning to understand, and he hoped he would be strong enough to follow whatever path the animal revealed next. Adam sat beside him, leaning against his shoulder as the stars brightened above them and the night air cooled, and he whispered that he hoped the horse would stay with them always because it made the land feel alive, and Amir smiled gently, knowing that life often brought beautiful things only for a season, but he believed that as long as they respected the land and followed the signs given to them, the horse would continue to guide them for as long as needed. As the fire crackled softly and the desert night settled around them, Amir lifted his eyes to the dark horizon and sensed that something important was coming, something that would reveal why the horse had chosen them, and he felt ready to face it, whatever it might be, because he no longer felt alone. He had Adam, the land, and the silent silver horse whose presence had already changed everything. The next morning arrived with a quiet stillness that felt different from the other days, as if the desert had paused to prepare for something important, and Amir stepped outside the cabin feeling a strange energy in the air, while the early sun painted the horizon in soft gold, and he looked across the land expecting to see the silver horse, but the animal was nowhere in sight, and the silence felt heavy in a way that made him wonder if the horse was guiding them to something final, something that would explain its purpose. Adam joined him, rubbing his sleepy eyes and asking if the horse would come again, and Amir placed a gentle hand on his shoulder and told him they needed to trust the land and watch for signs, because the horse always appeared for a reason, and maybe today it wanted them to find something on their own. And together they walked toward the stream, checking the fence and the path as they moved, and the morning wind carried a soft whisper through the dry grass, creating a feeling that something was waiting to be discovered. When they reached the hidden stream, they noticed fresh hoofprints in the sand leading away from the water, and Amir felt a spark inside his chest because the prints were clear and recent, and they moved beyond the part of the land he had explored before, and he told Adam they should follow them since the horse seemed to be guiding them again, and Adam agreed with excitement, running slightly ahead, while Amir kept a careful pace behind him, wanting to make sure they stayed safe. The prints led them to a narrow trail between two low ridges where the land dipped slightly, and the air felt cooler, as if the sun had not fully reached that place, and as they followed the trail the sound of wind changed and carried a soft echo, almost like a distant breath, and Adam pointed toward a cluster of rocks where the tracks ended, and Amir felt his heart beat faster because the horse stood there waiting for them with its silver coat glowing softly in the filtered light. The horse lifted its head and looked directly at Amir with deep, calm eyes that held a meaning he could not fully understand, and then it turned toward the rocks, stepping aside to reveal a narrow opening hidden behind a curtain of sand shaped by years of wind, and Amir felt a growing sense of wonder because it looked like the entrance of a small cave that he had never noticed before, and he approached it slowly with Adam close behind him, feeling both curiosity and caution. Inside the cave the air felt cool and carried the faint smell of old stone, and the light from outside illuminated the first few steps, revealing carvings on the walls that looked ancient, simple patterns of waves, animals, and shapes that seemed to tell stories of people who had lived in the desert long before them, and Amir touched the carvings, gently feeling the texture beneath his fingers, and sensing the weight of history that rested inside this hidden place. The horse waited at the entrance, its body still and patient as if guarding the space, and Amir walked further inside where the ground dipped slightly, forming a natural chamber, and in the center of that chamber lay a wooden chest covered in dust, but still intact, and Adam gasped as he approached it, his eyes shining with curiosity, and Amir knelt down beside the chest, feeling a mixture of wonder and responsibility because he sensed that whatever was inside had been placed here for a purpose. He opened the chest slowly, and inside he found old documents wrapped in cloth along with a collection of coins, tools, and a folded map that looked older than anything he had ever seen, and the map showed the land around them marked with symbols that matched the carvings on the cave walls, and he realized that the property he bought for $20 held rich history that no one had known about, and the people who once lived here had used the land with care and respect, understanding its secrets in ways modern settlers no longer remembered. Among the items was a note written in faded ink, the handwriting simple and careful, saying that the land should be protected and cared for by anyone who found this place, and that the silver horse would appear to those chosen to guard the land when the time was right, and Amir felt his breath catch because it felt as if the message had been waiting for him and Adam, and he understood that the horse had not only guided them but had also trusted them with the future of the land. Adam looked up at his father with wide eyes and asked if this meant they were the new guardians of the desert, and Amir felt a warm feeling rise in his chest as he nodded, because he knew the answer was yes, and he promised himself he would honor the responsibility with everything he had, and that he would teach Adam the value of protecting the land and respecting the creatures that lived in it. When they stepped out of the cave, the horse stood tall against the brightening sky, and Amir approached it with slow, steady steps, feeling a deep sense of gratitude and connection, and the horse lowered its head, gently touching its forehead to his hand in a silent gesture that felt like a blessing, and Amir felt a calmness wash over him, as if the land itself had spoken through the horse, telling him that he had chosen the right path. Adam reached out, and the horse allowed him to touch its mane for the first time, and the boy's eyes filled with joy and wonder, and he laughed softly, saying the horse felt warm like sunlight, and Amir watched him with pride, knowing that this moment would stay in his heart forever, and that it marked the beginning of a new chapter in their life on this land. After a few moments, the horse stepped back, lifted its head, and looked toward the horizon, as if preparing to leave, and Adam felt sadness rise in his voice, asking if it was going away forever, and Amir knelt beside him, explaining that the horse had done its part, and that it might return whenever they needed it, because guardians sometimes show themselves only when their presence is required, and then they walk their own path again. The horse gave a soft snort, turned gracefully, and began to walk across the desert with slow, powerful steps, and Amir and Adam watched in silence as its silver form shimmered against the sunlight, moving farther and farther until it became a small shape on the horizon, and then finally disappeared, leaving behind only the quiet wind and the warm glow of morning light. As they walked back to the cabin, Amir looked at the land with new eyes, understanding its worth not in money, but in history, meaning, and hope, and he felt a strong sense of peace knowing that the desert had chosen him and Adam as its caretakers, and that the struggles of divorce and loss no longer defined their future, because they now had a purpose that reached deeper than their past. They spent the rest of the day exploring the map, planting the first trees near the stream, and planning how to restore the land with respect and care, and every step they took felt guided by the silent memory of the silver horse whose presence had changed their life in ways they would remember as long as they lived. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, Amir and Adam sat outside the cabin watching the colors spread across the sky, and Amir felt grateful for everything the desert had given them: a second chance, a new beginning, and a story that would be passed down for generations. And even though the horse was no longer in sight, its spirit felt present in the warm wind and the quiet strength of the land. In that peaceful moment, Amir understood fully that sometimes life leads people to forgotten places, not to punish them, but to help them grow, and to show them truths they never expected to find, and the desert property he bought for almost nothing had turned into a treasure richer than anything he could ever buy, and it had given him the most important gift of all: a future filled with hope, purpose, and the bond he shared with his son, who stood beside him stronger than ever.